Things have happened and changed in your life. You have a title.
It has. It has. It has changed. As you know, on the 15th, I was sworn in as the Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. So,
Tell me about the process. You knew that Louise's term comes up. It's a 10-year term, and at some point you, as the deputy prosecutor, kind of put your hand in the air and say, I'm interested. How does that work?
I'm afraid I did that very late.
Mm-hmm.
Louise's term was coming to an end this year, 2012. And I think already in as late as 2011, I had not given any indication of wanting to be the chief prosecutor. And I was very much concentrated and focused on my role then, my previous role as deputy prosecutor, and also making space, of course, for my boss to be the prosecutor. And it was rather late in 2011 that I decided to throw my hat in as the next prosecutor. I for the first time saw it as an opportunity to continue with what has been started. I thought it would be a good opportunity both for continuity and also for change. I had the opportunity to serve with Louise for the past 8 years, and I had the opportunity to be there in the formulation of many of the policies, many of the strategies of the office, and I thought this had to be continued. While I'll be presenting a change, I will also present continuity. So I thought this would be smooth, have a smooth change, I would call it. So I decided in 2011 that I was going to run as prosecutor of the International Criminal Court.
How does one run for a prosecutor? I mean, there's the politics of it all. While you're working in one sense, the other time you're letting people know I'm a good choice.
I think this time the process that has been put in place by the Assembly of States Parties in forming the search committee for the next prosecutor of the International Criminal Court was a pretty good way of doing it. What it avoided us doing as candidates is to be political about it. To start running, to start making political campaigns, if I may call it that way, just to be noticed that you want to be the next prosecutor. I think the process of calling in the candidates, I think many candidates were interested, and many were given the opportunity to be interviewed by the search committee. I was one of them. And the search committee came back with about 4 names, the final 4. And eventually, I think they did consultations amongst the states parties and came up with the final candidate as a consensus candidate. I think there was a lot of input from all states parties who wanted to ensure that the right person is also elected. I had to do a couple of interviews myself. I was interviewed by the committee, but I was also interviewed by all the groups, like the African group, the Western European, and other groups. I was asked questions, and I was asked why I was interested in becoming the next prosecutor. And in the end, the search committee made a decision, but the decision was based largely on consultations with all the groups, all the states parties. And that's how it happened this time.
They weeded down to a few. I mean, did you know who your competition was?
I don't know who there was initially first 8 from a larger pool. I don't know who the first 8 were. But I know that when it was narrowed down to 4, there was Andrew Cayley, there was Robert Petit, and there was also Mr. Othman. He is currently the Chief Justice of Tanzania, and myself.
Okay.
So we were the final 4, and the consultations that were being made by the search committee was about this final 4 candidates, and the states parties decided that I should be the one, and this is how it happened.
Time magazine put out an article that identified you, Fatou Bensouda, Justice in the Court of Last Resort, as one of the top 100 most influential people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Was there a tipping point where you'd say, aha, now I want to be an international criminal lawyer, that started you on this path?
You know, I would rather put it this way. I am a prosecutor. I love to prosecute. It's a passion I have.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been for a long time, since when I was in the Gambia. And my drive to go into international criminal prosecution was largely this passion. Mm-hmm. I think at the national level, I thought I had reached the highest level at the national level. I had also prosecuted serious cases at the national level, and it was this love of prosecution and wanting to see accountability for crimes that pushed me to go to Rwanda to join the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. And it was this passion that I thought would give me the opportunity to prosecute at a different level. And this is really what led me there. This is what made me to go there. But you know, international criminal prosecution is something that I find that whilst it is prosecution, right, but it is at a totally different level with national prosecutions. And I have to say that what you do at the national level does not really equal. I do not want to say prepare you, but because it's prosecution. But when you look at the massive scale of the crimes that you now come to prosecute, when you look at the massive number of perpetrators who commit these crimes, and you look at the massive number of victims of these crimes, and you start to wonder, you know, of course with your team, how do I ensure that under these circumstances, I'm not just looking at one perpetrator. Obviously the crimes have been committed, but how do I put a plan in place to ensure that those who have perpetrated these crimes, those who should be held accountable, are held accountable? How do I look for those who bear the greatest responsibility for these crimes? It's not an easy feat. It can be quite complicated. It can be quite complex. And at the same time, you want to ensure that the victims, those for whom you're actually doing this, feel that, you know, justice is being done. Mm-hmm. So this is different. And I think what it did to me, it just fueled my passion more, you know, for prosecutions, but in this instance, international prosecutions. I have said from the very beginning that I choose sides. I either choose the side of the perpetrator or that of the victim, but I choose the side of the victim. And this, I hope, will be manifest in my next few years ahead.